Alright, well, we're here. The final part of the iceberg. To recap, we left off at tier 3 of the iceberg. So with that said, let's just jump back in. Actually, before we do, I did make some mistakes in the last part. In the last video, I said that Slowdive released their track Sleep onto Spotify. I made it seem as if the band had full intent on doing so, but in actuality, it was an unauthorized release. This was one of the main mistakes. I'll probably make a redux in the future to add more entries and fix some of the mistakes I've made. Okay, other than that, yeah, let's just continue. The entry here is referring to the popular music reviewer Anthony Fantano, aka The Needle Drop on YouTube. Basically, it is assumed by people, mostly commenters, that Fantano just dislikes the genre due to some low scores that he gave to some shoegaze records. The 2017 Slowdive record, for example, wasn't seen so favorably by him, and neither did Hyperview by Title Fight. This entry is a little misunderstood, I believe, because he gave a lot of good scores to a lot of shoegaze records as well. The 2013 MBV record, Candy Claws, Paranoid, all received pretty good scores by him, so this one's up to y'all. There has been some debate online about what the first shoegazy type song was. To be categorized as shoegaze, it has to have the basis of it having a wall of sound production, meaning a lot of layers of instruments basically. Anyways, artists who people claim to have begun this genre range from Jesus and Mary Chain, David Bowie, Cocteau Twins, The Beatles, Velvet Underground, Beach Boys. So you can see everything is very sporadic with the answers, ranging from artists who you might expect this from versus artists who you just didn't really associate anything of the sorts. The band Nothing has seen a lot of lineup changes throughout the years, which to be fair is all too common within the music industry. The most notable of these lineup member changes being that of Brandon Seta and Nick Bassett. Although not really a full-fledged shoegaze album, and more akin to that of grunge, Jar was the debut album of Super Heaven, one going by the moniker of Daylight. The record was released by Daylight before they had to change their name to Super Heaven due to copyright reasons. Anyways, this entry is referring to the backstory of the album. As described by guitarist and vocalist Taylor Madison, the record was made in a pretty awful time in his life. His father passed away, and he also found out that his sister was a heroin addict. In 2018, when celebrating the 5th year anniversary of Jar, Taylor made a tweet that explained what was happening behind the scenes with him. The backstory of this album is pretty disheartening, and you can feel the emotions that were poured onto the record. Brian Peter was the drummer of the band Hum, who were mentioned in the Iceberg. In 2021, it was confirmed by Hum members that Brian had sadly passed away, a year after the band's surprise 5th album Inlet, marking the final contribution made by Brian. All my condolences go to his family, and this guy's basically an underground legend regarding drumming and sorts, so it was really sad to see him go. Pasteboard was a duo formed out of Saitama, Japan in 2001. It took a few years before they released their debut album Glitter. After this release, Pasteboard would slowly stop releasing music, making a few singles here and there. Any activity or talks about a second album were completely shut down. As the years went by, people just wondered if Pasteboard just quit altogether or were on hiatus. For years, people wondered what happened to the duo. That was until April of 2023, 17 years after the release of Glitter. Pasteboard randomly updated their music profiles across a lot of music platforms, and just released the deluxe version of Glitter with, all these songs that have been made after Glitter. But, hearing all these tracks being all, made into like one single release instead of having to go on YouTube to listen to them, it just made everything more convenient, and gives me hope that Pasteboard will return, and it's pretty nostalgic. Around April of 2020, it was announced that My Bloody Valentine and Supreme have collaborated to drop some merch. Mixed reactions were ultimately brewed because of this. A lot of this negativity was due because a lot of people thought this would ruin the integrity of the band. There's a theory that the song When the Sun Hits by Slowdive is an actual doomsday planned event that is supposed to happen in the year 2012. The somber lyrics indicate an apocalyptic catastrophe masquerading itself as a bittersweet song. The post-rock genre is one that is shrouded mostly by instrumentals, but there has been some confusion within these two genres, mostly due because of good chunk of post-rock contains a lot of distortion and reverb and breaching into straight up shoegaze. Shoegaze is mostly linear in progression with the wall of sound production, while post-rock has a bit more elements and uses distortion and reverb more as, texture to add to the music. And yeah, just imagine it kind of like an opera. The notorious MT2, otherwise known as the Boss Metal Zone distortion pedal. The Metal Zone pedal was it's a well-known guitar pedal that focuses on distortion. The Metal Zone is basically a meme in the guitar pedal community, with people either loving the pedal or just having a lot of disdain towards it for some reason. Well, you now may be asking why this is on here, and that's because since it's a distortion pedal, a lot of people in the community probably have used this pedal. Needless to say, the band Hum has inspired a lot of bands, so much so that there's a whole playlist you can find of bands that are similar to Hum, my personal favorites being Love Cup and Nemo. It is said that Trauma's Rays EP, Transmission, is alluding to the space race. This mostly stems from the lyrics and overall tone of the music, and these little videos that play when you click on the song menu on Spotify that indicate a space-like theme to the music. Well, we follow the song titles. It paints a picture of man crossing that destination to make it onto the moon. Now you may be asking, how does this even correlate to the Cold War or anything of the sorts? Well, that's the thing, it's a stretch, with maybe all of it being a coincidence besides the song Nixon, which sparked this theory due to Nixon's presidency being in the last few years of the space race. Around 2013, the beef between the world and internet music reviewer Anthony Fantano began. The timeline is a little weird to say, with everything that has been shown and the limited screenshots that still remain of this whole ordeal. But I believe that it began like this. The beef basically began when this Twitter interaction was made. A user on the app and Fantano had a thread where the user asked Fantano if they heard World's side project Death of Lovers, in which Fantano just flat out says he's not even into World. Now this was around 2013, so World were still in that little edgy phase in their career, so to be expected from the edgelords, they react to this little thread with a little meme that pokes fun of Fantano. Then they replied to some of the comments that were very unimpressed with their actions, which is where this image from the last video came from, as this guy basically, said that's not cool. Anyways, World continued berating Fantano with more jokes poking at the reviewer. The whole thing died down, but it seems like the band just continued having some disdain towards Fantano ever since the whole situation. Funny enough, Fantano did not even hate or dislike World. The reviewer has pointed out that he did like some of their songs. A loose follow-up of the last entry. It's kind of known that the band Nothing and World are, pretty cool with one another, both stemming from the same era of shoegaze and going on tours with one another. Nick Bassett of World was also a part of Nothing's lineup as well. With context given, it makes this entry a bit more easier to understand. Well, around 2016, Nothing released their second studio album, Tired of Tomorrow. From the information I could find about the whole thing, it seems as if Fantano did not review their album, with Nothing then berating Fantano in similar fashion to World, with people assuming that Bassett was the main culprit behind this attack. The entry refers to this Iceberg, ranking the artists within how obscure they are. Now, this Iceberg was made around a year ago, so some of these artists may be a lot more known compared to last year. Alright, so Bummer Records is a shoegaze label based off Tennessee, and this entry refers to how if you purchase some of their merch, like an album or just merch in general, chances are you're gonna get some stickers. And the one that struck me the most interesting was the Suihiro Maru sticker that you can get. I actually have this sticker from purchasing the Underneath the Shade cassette from Sleepwalk, which is a pretty good album. The original print of this sticker, of course, being a print by the mangaka Suihiro Maruo called Denkiari. Butchered it probably. It is theorized that the band LSD and the Search for God have found God, explaining their absence within music. Well, I'm just as surprised as all of y'all as to why Drake is on here. Well, Drake is actually a little meme in the community, with people claiming, now put emphasis on the word claiming, that Drake back in '89 was ghostwriting for My Bloody Valentine. Auto foreshadowed Drake's dance album, honestly never minds later, as Proto-Gaze. A little joke entry that refers to a little meme in the Iceberg community about personalization that came from one of the first popular icebergs, the Mario 64 iceberg, of course. This entry stems from the joke, and it just means that everyone's experience with Shoegaze is ultimately personalized and unique to them only. Not really an entry, and more like a huge thanks to the Icegazer thread on Twitter. This video would not be possible. It's crazy how a little meme actually spawned an actual discussion and iceberg that brought to light a lot of things. And with this entry over, I'm going to put out a warning for the last two entries. Viewer discretion is advised. Mount Seldom Records was an independent label based off Portland, Oregon. It was mostly all handled by creator and owner of the label, Mikhail. Around mid-2019, the Mount Seldom Records Instagram page would have its last 3 posts on July 9th. 2 of these posts being final releases that Mount Seldom would ever do regarding new artists. Shortly after these posts, the last post will be made. This post being vastly different and felt rather somber compared to the rest of the page. The Mount Seldom Records Instagram will then stop posting onwards, with one final post being made to Mikhail's personal Instagram a day later. This will be the last time Mikhail had updated any account by his own accord. It was revealed that Mikhail had sadly took his own life. Ultimately, news spread about Mikhail's passing through his accounts, with comments being made honoring Mikhail and his contributions to help smaller artists. A few days later, the Mount Seldom Records Facebook would be updated, ultimately about a memorial compilation album for Mikhail, with all proceeds being donated to the Second Chance to Play charity and Whiteberg Clinic. Both charities having a sentimental value to Mikhail in which he found relevant. The memorial tape was finished by December of 2019, and being the official final Mount Seldom Records release. The Facebook page would be updated one last time in early January of 2020, and nothing has been updated since. May Mikhail rest in peace, and I hope all his loved ones are doing well. This entry will be heavily censored and direct, as I'm planning on making a full video regarding Acid Ghost, due to a rabbit hole of sorts that is being formed right under our noses regarding them. I also feel like a single entry in an iceberg chart, no less, is kind of throwing some disrespect to the people who might have been affected by the whole ordeal. I don't feel right leaving this entry as just a one-off, and I intend on covering every bit of information that is being brought out to light about this in its own separate video. With that said, this is the gist of what happened to better understand the situation and just, bring this to light. Acid Ghost was a duo that formed around 2014. The duo consisted of guitarist/vocalist Ace Barcelone and drummer Mikey Mendoza. The duo released 4 albums together with a planned 5th album until allegations were brought out regarding the vocalist Ace Barcelone. Dozens of accusations regarding Ace started popping up during 2017 as the resurgence of the Me Too movement started coming into play regarding a lot of musical artists, actors, and such. The Me Too movement being ultimately centered about awareness regarding sexual abuse and harassment. Throughout 2017, allegations kept piling on Ace, with Ace poorly responding and seemingly implying some truth about the matter. Ultimately, the damage was done. It seemed as if Acid Ghost ended due to Ace basically just disappearing. Everything regarding Ace seemed to just disappear. A few weeks after the influx of accusations, and around the beginning of 2018, the drummer, Mikey Mendoza, responded to the issue, apologizing to the people who were affected, stating that he wasn't aware of what was happening due to being away from Acid Ghost before allegations started popping up. Ultimately, feeling deep remorse to what happened while he was gone. Hello, I'm sorry if the last entry was brief and didn't cover everything. As mentioned earlier, I plan on making a full video about everything regarding that entry. It's a pretty disheartening way to end an iceberg, and it's pretty messed up, man. But I want to thank everyone for all the support that has been shown in the last part. It's been a ride, and this is just the beginning, so I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see y'all next time.